It's West Ham v Chelsea on Saturday. So, of course, what does that mean for the We Are West Ham podcast? It means that Stamford Chidge is on to have a chat with us about all things Blues, as I'd say every single time Chidgey comes on. He's the sort of bloke who makes it impossible to dislike Chelsea fans as much as you might like to. Dave, it's great to have you on. Well, I know. Tell me about it. I do often get some funny looks. And I've explained this to you before, and we probably chat about it every time you come on. But I do get some odd looks from some West Ham fans sometimes when I explain that, actually, no, I don't hate Chelsea. I enjoy beating them in the London rivalry. But the way I look at it, any Chelsea fans who are my age or a smidge older have watched Chelsea and would go and watch Chelsea when they were crap. It also wasn't their fault that the Roman Abramovich takeover happened. No Blues fans voted for it. All right, the modern generation, you might get a few more glory hunters, perhaps. But no, if I had a choice of West Ham, if someone said, right, out of all the big six teams, I hate calling them that, especially as it tends to include Tottenham, who you get to beat three of them this season and lose to the other three, I would always beat Arsenal, Tottenham and Manchester United, to be quite honest. People don't understand why I have a bit of an affinity to Chelsea and their fans, but you are one of them, Chidge. So how are you? How do you feel about that revelation?
Will, you damn us with faint praise every time I see you, which is very lovely of you. But you're obviously a closet Chelsea fan, Will. What can I say?
Yeah, I think if it wasn't quite so far away, I don't know. I always my sort of view on other clubs is always and always has been based on the fans rather than sort of any football philosophy or anything like that. I just base it on the fans.
We've had this chat many times. Usually when we do this, but I mean, in spite of the naughtiness of the 70s and the 80s. I mean, I've always had a bit of a soft spot for West Ham. I can't. I mean, Spurs obviously can't stand them. Arsenal obviously can't stand them, and as you're right. A lot of that's dictated by their supporters, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Liverpool can't stand them. Obviously dictated to by their supporters. United, don't like them either because I don't like their supporters much, but. I've got a lot of West Ham mates, and and I don't know. I've never really bought into this whole East-West kind of thing. I'm not a Londoner, so maybe I don't feel it as much as my mates do. But I've never had much of a problem with West Ham, and some of our best players have been bought from West Ham, so I shouldn't really grumble too much. Joe Cole.
Quite. Yeah, Glenn Johnson. Yeah, I'm trying to think
if we've ever had Johnson, but
no, quite. I'm trying to think if we've ever had any decent players off of you the other way. I think there's a weird stat that we've only ever signed like 2 players off Arsenal in our history or something ridiculous. I can't really think if we've ever swooped in and taken a Chelsea player off of your hands. There'll be some people screaming at me now going, what about so-and-so? How can you forget him, you complete and utter buffoon? Do you think any off the top of your head?
Do you know what?
We've gone from Chelsea to West Ham.
Well, Jimmy Greaves, but circuitously, obviously.
Yeah, and slightly before my time.
Yeah, I mean, he went to Milan and Spurs before that, didn't he?
Scott Parker.
Scotty Parker, yeah.
Did he play for? I'm not sure if he played.
He played for us.
We didn't sign him from you, though, did we?
We got him from Charlton, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think where we got him from.
No, who did we get rid of him to? I can't remember now. Maybe Spurs, actually.
Might have been Spurs, yeah.
But who else have we
Carlton Cole, of course. I don't know if he came direct from you either, but yeah,
he went the other way, didn't he? I mean, obviously we had Jeff Hurst as manager.
I'm not quite sure if we
can
that one, Chidge, but yeah. Well, I'm trying to look it up at the moment, and all it is Carlton Cole, Joe Cole, Victor Moses. Yeah,
really? I forgot about that.
Yeah, Denver Bar went the other way, of course. Jimmy Greaves is on there. John Terry, he was a West Ham Academy graduate.
He was, wasn't he? He was a part of the Senrab thing, of course.
Big Yossi Benny. Wayne Bridge. God, Wayne Bridge we had. Jesus, after you had him.
Zuma,
terrible.
Kurt Zuma.
Absolutely. Yeah, Kurt Zuma. There you go. I knew there'd be a current one that would catch me out. But yeah, Zuma probably the best.
We were going to sign. We were going to sign Paolo Di Canio. That was always on the cards when Vialli was manager.
Yeah,
because he was great mates with Paolo. So there was always rumours that we were going to get Paolo Di Canio. I'd have loved Paolo at Chelsea. I mean, he's Chelsea. I mean, he's nuts. It'd have been brilliant at Chelsea.
Scored 2 of his finest goals against Chelsea, actually. The season we went down, we'd managed to do the double over you somehow. He scored that absolutely audacious left foot pinger where he flicked it up with his right, volleyed it in with his left at Stamford Bridge, a 1-0 win. And he did score in the home game as well. We beat you 1-0 at home.
He did.
And still managed to go down. Yeah,
he'd always score against us. I remember he got sent off in one of those games, right down the corner I'm right at the back in the corner. And I was the one that managed to start the fuck off Di Canio chant. I was very happy with
that. Well, I'm glad we're giving you the platform to brag to all of our West Ham listeners. How you getting on? What's new Blues wise? Obviously running the Chelsea FanCast still, and yeah, I obviously watched the game against Liverpool yesterday. Recording this on the Monday morning. There seems to be just a general feel of positivity, but before we go into the nitty gritty of the game, Pochettino's come in, the Tod Boehly. Every time I speak to you, there's some sort of like earth-shattering roller coaster that's happened to Chelsea. Sometimes it can only be 2 months between talking, and something else absolutely monumental shift has happened. The Tod Boehly sort of spending circus is still not rolled out of town. You've sort of got rid of some players from the disastrous early transfer window. Pochettino seems like a sensible appointment, yet a lot of your players yesterday, I think it's fair to say that most fair weather football fans would have looked at and gone, who are you?
Well, it was. I mean, first of all, I'm sure you know exactly what I mean. It's lovely to be back. First game of the season is always really special because you get to see everybody you haven't seen all summer. But yeah, we didn't really know what to expect at all. I mean, I think there were 5 new starters yesterday. We were talking a little bit about, we did a very big thing during the summer on the 1983-84 season, which is when we got promoted back to Division 1. And we did a book and all sorts of big events last season. And we were talking about that yesterday, saying, we can't remember the last time when we had so many new players starting. And in 83-84, I mean, the year before, we nearly got relegated to Division 3. And that season, we had 5 new starters: Kerry Dixon, Pat Nevin, Eddie Nijvek. No, I think Eddie might have already been there. But Nigel Spackman, Joe McLaughlin, to name a few. And we beat Derby County 5-0. And they were like, they had some good players and they were expected to be challenging for the Division 2 title. And it completely changed everything. We've never really looked back since then in some ways. And we were saying yesterday, we don't know who half these players are. I mean, seriously.
Well, that's reassuring if even Chelsea fans don't.
Nicholas Jackson, I don't, watch, what was it, Valor?
From Valencia or Villarreal?
Villarreal or something. I don't watch them play. I don't play FIFA, so I think this is half the problem. All the kids seem to know these players are because they play. I don't play FIFA, so I don't know, and I don't have time to watch bloody La Liga every week. Anyway, Nicholas Jackson. I
barely have time to watch the Premier League, mate.
I mean, I fast forward through match of the day until I get to the Chelsea match, mate. I mean, I'm that bad. But anyway,
I thought you meant you fast forward through Danny Murphy because that's certainly what I do.
Terrible. Anyway, yeah. So Dizazi, Nicholas Jackson. We don't really know much about these players. Gusto, another one who made his debut yesterday. But it was really encouraging. Will, I mean, the general consensus yesterday was that the performance was better than pretty much everything that we saw last season.
Pretty much what Chilwell said afterwards.
Yeah, good old Chile, the wing commander. Yeah, I mean, he had a good game, but I mean, it was the attitude. They looked like they knew what they were doing. That was the biggest difference from last season. Last season, they looked absolutely clueless. This season, there was more energy. There was more purpose. They were getting forward. I mean, Jackson did a couple of runs from his own half shrugging off 2 or 3 Liverpool defenders and getting a shot off. We didn't see that once from anybody last season. So that was great. Conor Gallagher was fantastic in midfield, out of position. Enzo was absolutely class. He really is. He's worth the money. I tell you, he's a good player. All round, it was a really good performance, and we were the better side. Certainly in the second half, we were the better side. So had we won that, I don't think Liverpool would have had too many complaints. But I think a draw was probably a fair result. But I was really pleased, really encouraged, and I haven't said that about Chelsea for a long time.
No, quite. So, give us a summary then of your thoughts on the Boehly Pochettino situation. We'll do Poch first, but are you happy with Poch? It seems to me like a really good appointment. There are those who go, well, what's he won so far? Specialist in failure, that sort of thing. But I like being close, but he's just got a good PR team behind him. But
yeah,
I think it's a decent move, but maybe I'm a sucker for good PR.
I do too. Well, he's a proper manager. I don't care about the Spurs thing. I really don't.
He does he?
No, it's a red herring, I think. But unless he gobbed off about Chelsea a lot when he was Spurs manager, and he didn't. Rafa Benitez gobbed off about Chelsea when he was a Liverpool manager. He was never going to get accepted by the Chelsea supporters. All he had to do was turn up and say, "I apologise for being a gobby arsehole when I was Liverpool manager, but you got to understand, I only did it because and he would have been forgiven." But he never did. He doubled down on it, and we got him out because he was horrible. But Pochettino never did that at all. So there's no animosity there as far as I'm concerned. He's a proper manager. Name me one other manager other than Juan de Ramos who's won a trophy for Spurs in the last 30 years. I'm waiting. Still waiting.
One day Ramos.
Yeah. So I don't hold it against Pochettino that he didn't win anything with Spurs, because nobody wins anything at Spurs. But he did take them to the Champions League final, and if you think about it, that's outrageous.
They were completely fluky. To be fair, the Manchester City game and the Ajax game, it was just complete and utter. They should have gone out in the quarters, but fair enough.
He got them there, and he's managed a batshit insane club at PSG. We were saying in the pub afterwards, actually last night, that we got him at the right time. I think he did really well at Southampton. He did do really well at Spurs. He got them challenging, and nobody does that at Spurs. He then went to PSG where he won some stuff, but more importantly, I think he's got a lot of experience of managing batshit insane clubs, and we, Chelsea, are also a batshit insane club. So he's had enough experience. I think he will have learned a lot of PSG. He knows the Premier League. The other thing is, it was just so good to see Chelsea playing on the front foot yesterday. They were getting stuck into tackles, they were pressing hard, and they were getting forward. And you can see that he likes to play attacking football. And if you think about it, forget Potter because it was just clueless. Tuchel, brilliant.
Was he not a victim of the situation, though, mate?
Yeah. But he should never have been hired, and he should never. You're not going to turn it down. I get that. But he was so clearly out of his depth.
I don't even think it's that. I just think him and Thomas Frank, and I think Dean Smith was a bit like it. I think me and Jonesy were chatting about this last week. I think clubs like Brentford and Brighton are so well run, but they're run in such a specific way that the manager is sort of almost like a complementary bolt-on into the whole system. And then outside of that framework, it's all of a sudden like, oh, hang on a minute. And when there's not like an outstanding infrastructure behind you, and you've got to be sort of a bit more spit and sawdust or a bit more roll with it, I think certain clubs drag managers' potential down. I think West Ham do that to managers. But then other clubs who are perhaps more well-run behind the scenes, Man City, for example, right? Pep Guardiola, right, amazing, incredible manager. But the framework and the way the club is run behind the manager means it's much easier for a manager to perform well, isn't it? Wouldn't you agree? And I think PSG is a prime example of that, right? Loads of money, but just, like a mental way of running a football club. And I think Chelsea is a bit like that. And I think certain clubs make it hard for managers to flourish, don't they? And others, I think, make managers look better than they perhaps are. And I think Brentford and Brighton are two of those. You put Thomas Frank somewhere else, and I don't think he looks anywhere near as good. I think he becomes the new Gary O'Neill.
Yeah, but that's kind of my point. I mean, yes, I take it. I do take your point, and you know, I think particularly last year Chelsea would have been chaotic because, you know, when Boehly came in, they tried to change everything overnight, and that's just silly. Nuts. You know, you can't do that without causing an impact. But I do think that Potter was out of his depth. You know, he'd never managed a club with that kind of level of expectations, that kind of stature. And he was, you know, he was great at a club like Brighton because they're going to love him. It's smaller. Their expectations are much lower, but you know, he couldn't cope with it, and it was obvious. And I mean, you know, there's you know, the Australian cricket team, very famously when they were beating everybody, talked about what they liked to do was create mental disintegration. But I mean, you could see Potter, he had lost the plot. He looked as like a man who was incapable of making decisions because it was too much for him. He was overwhelmed by it. I feel for him. I don't have any animosity towards Potter at all. I mean, I hated last season and the non-football that we were playing, but I do feel for him. I think he's a nice bloke, a decent bloke, but he was a bloke who was. I mean, come on, we've all done it. We've seen people do it. We've done it ourselves. We've taken on the job. It's just too big, too difficult. We don't have the experience to deal with it. And you try and do it, and you flounder. It's overwhelming. And he looked like that kind of a bloke last season. And I feel for him because I think he's a decent bloke, but he was never a Chelsea manager, and it was a stupid pick by people who don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, fair enough. So looking forward, then what you know, talking the people who made that pick was Tod Boehly and his American cohort. What's your? I'll be honest. It does obviously sort of got rid of a load of the players you bought in. Are you heartened or buoyed? It looks like the news this morning is deal agreed for Caicedo, £115 million, which is he 10 million better than Declan Rice? I don't think so. Seems like a purchase for potential. Another 8-year contract handed out with the potential, with the option of a 9th. I don't know why that bit made me laugh particularly. You know, it's not like Todd's had a complete change of strategy over the summer. It seems a little bit more measured, and Poch seems like a good appointment. But what's your updated thoughts on Tod Boehly and his regime?
I mean, I'm delighted that we've got Caicedo, because we definitely need a defensive midfield player. I mean, yesterday, Conor Gallagher basically played as a number 6 and Enzo played as a number 8. And Enzo, as he's been saying for the last, God knows how long since he's been with us, that he is better going forward. He's not a holding midfielder, but we had him in that role. So we need somebody in that role. Look, I would have cut my arm off for Declan Rice, and I think we would have got him had Boehly et al. Not screwed up with Mason Mount's contract, you know. And I think a combination. Well, I'm going to put it right down to that actually, and also having a shit season. I mean, Declan Rice, if he's going to leave West Ham,
no, I think it was that. Yeah,
I think he wants to play Champions League football. So in other words, you can
or any European football, mate.
Yeah, you can. Well, yeah. I mean, I mean, you know, you want some Mickey Mouse trophy, didn't you, last year? I've got to be honest. Whilst I'm being rude about it, I have to say I watched that final and I was chuffed that West Ham won it. I really was. Yeah. I loved it. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
But I mean, so you can pin the blame on all of this on Boehly et al. Because you know they made the appointment, which meant that we screwed up the season totally last season. And I'm from what I understand about Mount, they basically had an offer on the table which he was going to accept after when he got back from the World Cup. He got back from the World Cup and they changed their mind and they've withdrawn the offer. So that's going to really piss you off, isn't it? They also apparently they sacked most of the medical department or replaced them. And as you know, players take a lot of stall by who's treating them, who's looking after them. And he had that groin injury, and there's rumours around that maybe they mismanaged that, which pissed him off. And I think he just may have taken one look at and I mean, this is interesting because this is perhaps analogous to a lot of supporters, but he took a look at what was going on last season, and they're ruining my club, and I just don't want to have any part of it anymore. But of course, I think that had a knock-on on Rice because he and Mount. I think if you'd had a fit and firing and galvanised and motivated Mount as possibly Chelsea's captain this season, I think we might have got Declan Rice, and we wouldn't have had to pay 115 million quid. And I think he's a better player than Caicedo.
Definitely, I definitely do. He's like much more proven. He's a little bit older. He's played big international games. Had success with West Ham in Europe, obviously, albeit the Conference League. And yeah, totally. I think the whole transfer market's out of whack. It's just happened to be that you and Liverpool, two of the biggest spenders in the country, needed a holding midfielder after Arsenal had snapped up the obvious choice. I totally agree on that front, Chidge. And I think, again, and that's one of the sort of unseen symptoms, I suppose, of the mismanagement of Boehly. It seemed that most Chelsea fans were pretty gutted to see Mason Mount leave. And I agree. I think if you didn't have such a circus of a season last year, Declan Rice goes to Chelsea. Yeah. Absolutely no-brainer. I think if Manchester City didn't have Rodri...
Goes back to Chelsea. Get it right.
Huh?
Goes back to Chelsea.
Yeah. Yeah, he's still got the ump because of how you mistreated him when he was a child. Awful football club. No, I think he goes back. Then him and Mount are there, and you have all that good positive PR of they're two of our own, because you lot would have sung that definitely. And I think if Manchester City didn't have Rodri,
I thought we only had one song.
Well, yeah. I did like that. I saw that on Twitter the other day. Was it Enzo Fernandez who was asked what his favourite Chelsea song was? And he answered with Chelsea, Chelsea, Chelsea.
Okay, Will, for the benefit...
It was that or come on, Chelsea.
For the benefit of your lovely listeners, let me explain about Chelsea, which we get hammered, no pun intended. We get hammered for that. Oh, it's a crap song. You've only got one song. It's only got one word. Well, that's probably okay because Chelsea fans can only understand one word. Blah 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 blah. Let me tell you, mate. There is nothing that pisses when you go away, even if you're at home. Actually, there's nothing that pisses the opposition fans off more than us singing that song endlessly. And I remember back in the 80s, we would sing that for an entire half. And you can almost see the opposition fans saying, make it stop. I can't take it anymore. So, it's great. And it's ours. And we've always done it. And, in a way, I think, I know
if I've touched a nerve, mate.
You have a bit. I'm a bit defensive about it. But I love it. I love that song. I love that song. It's amongst my earliest memories of going to Chelsea. Even if when I lived down there and I wasn't going to a game, you could hear that down the North End Road on a Saturday. For me, it's a thing of absolute perfection and beauty, and I won't have it dissed by opposition fans who don't get what it's about. If I took the piss out of blowing bubbles, you would not be happy, would you?
No, quite. No, I do understand the complete fallacy of that as a club anthem, to be quite honest. But the West Ham have got irons, which is arguably more of a Neanderthal chant than Chelsea. Exactly. So, yeah.
I love all this. All my West Ham mates, wherever they go, and I get all this bollocks all the time,
Yeah.
I think one of the love of a pair of handcuffs or something,
So look at obviously we'll have a look at the game on Saturday in a bit more detail in a minute, Chidge. But what are your sort of hopes and expectations for the season and for Chelsea this year?
It's really hard, isn't it, to start with. Well, what are my expectations? Well, I think the thing is that because of last season, the bar has been set a lot lower.
Quite.
And then, of course, there's a lot of unknowns. In the short term, you don't really know what's going on until the bloody transfer window's finished because you don't know who's going to still be here. You don't know who might be coming in. So things will be a little bit clearer then. Based on yesterday against Liverpool, I think Disasi looks a very good buy. He's a proper player. He's a proper defender. Liked him a lot.
Where did you get him from?
I don't know, mate. I mean, go and ask somebody under 30. They'll know.
This is called the opposition view. You're supposed to be the expert for gaps in West Ham fans' knowledge.
Ask me how many Guinnesses I had yesterday. I can tell you that.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
But I really, honestly don't know. But I mean, you've also got
Monaco. You're going from?
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. It was on the tip of my tongue.
Sounds
you
like
also
it.
got to remember we've been buying so many bloody players. It's hard to keep up, mate. You know. But anyway, he looks a good player to me. But I know he's a French international. I know he's partnered Benoit Badiashile at Monaco. That was the clue I should have remembered, shouldn't I? Really. So we've potentially got we've got a club central defensive pairing and potentially an international defensive pairing. But anyway, he looks good. Chilwell and James obviously are fantastic players. Thiago Silva is still world class, even if he is almost as old as me.
71. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, mate, he I was saying yesterday, I was sitting with a great mate yesterday, and he doesn't normally get to games, so I managed to get him a ticket, and we managed to sit together, which is unusual, but great. And there was a moment where I can't remember who it was up front for Liverpool. It might have been Jota or Diaz, who looked as if he was going to absolutely rinse Silva, but Silva had spotted it, and he's still really quick over 10 yards. Right now, that doesn't sound a lot, but actually, at that level, if you got 10 yards in your head and you're still quite quick over 10 yards, you can still snuff out trouble, and that's what he did. So, I think Silva's still got a role to play. Colwill, a lot of people rate him very, very highly, and I'm very glad we've stuck hold of him. So he'll get better. Enzo in midfield, I think, is a world-class player in the making. And then it gets interesting, because what I would say is that they've ripped a lot of experience out of the side, certainly in midfield. And I think the attack is still a bit of a mishmash. We've lost Nkunku until January, which is a massive loss because he looked good in pre-season. He looks a good player. Jackson untested the Premier League, but I like the look of what I saw yesterday. I mean, he did two fantastic runs, as I was saying, and I haven't seen that from anybody at Chelsea for a long time. Mudryk, very raw, but a lot of talent. He'll scare the hell out of people. Scared the hell out of Liverpool defence for the last 10 minutes yesterday. Sterling, mate, I mean, they could get rid of him tomorrow and I'd be happy. He's not done it at Chelsea. He didn't look. I mean, you expect a lot more from a player who costs that much, and you pay 350 grand a week to. He doesn't look like a game changer, and I'm not a fan. But we're light up front, Will, I would say, definitely. And I think we don't really have anybody who can really play in what I would call, the number 10 role, a real creative attacking midfielder. So I do worry a bit about that. But yeah, I mean, my expectations are, I think we'd struggle to get top four, if you're honest. I think Arsenal, City, definitely ahead of us. Newcastle possibly, United possibly. So I think that we'll be scrapping it out with the likes of Villa and Spurs and Liverpool.
Do you not benefit from no Europe, though, mate?
Well, I was going to get into that. That is the one thing that might change that, because if we get a few more players in, I mean, we've just lost Kepa as well, by the way. So we've got Brighton's third choice goalkeeper as our number one choice, which is a bit weird. But he looked all right actually yesterday. But yeah, not having Europe, I think, will be a great help. Last time that happened to us under Conte, we won the title. But we won the title with a squad who had won the title only a couple of years before. We're not in that situation now. This is an entirely new team, pretty much. Many of whom are very young and untested in the Premier League. So that might get us top four, but it's a big ask, I think. It's a long way to come back from 12th to get in the top four. So,
yeah. No, I know what you mean. Well, look, I've been incorrectly billing this weekend's game as Saturday. It was, of course, the Super Sunday slot once again, 2 in a row for Chelsea. West Ham Chelsea at London Stadium, 4:30 kickoff on Sunday. I know you sort of say the same thing every time, that we turn up and play like Brazil, but What are your thoughts ahead of that game at London Stadium in East London on the weekend?
Well, yeah. I mean, you see, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? It's weird. Both our perceptions. See, my perception is it's always a tough game for us. That you do turn up and play like Brazil. I mean, I expected. You drew with Bournemouth, didn't you, the weekend?
Went 1-0 up. Yeah, got pegged back. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's an interesting thing. I expect you to struggle a bit this year, because you've lost Rice. I hear you've just bought Ward-Prowse, who's a good player, but he's a different kind of player from Rice. So
totally agree. Yeah, that's what I've been saying. Yeah, no one will listen.
But again, Will, it's like us, until the transfer window's shut, it's hard to know really what's going on. I think because of that, I mean, we'll probably have Caicedo debuting next Sunday. We had a good start against Liverpool. We like to attack now, so I give us a good chance. But I mean, you never know with West Ham. I mean, as I said, you always make it difficult for us. As I said, you tend to end up playing like 1970s Brazil for the 2 games against us. So I don't know. It'd be a tough one to call. I mean, these early season matches are just a nightmare. We do a whole Premier Predictions League for the FanCast, and the first round of games is. I completely. I mean, basically, Pat Nevin is in our league, and we used to take the mick out of Pat a couple of seasons ago because he would just predict 2-1 for every single match, and we're all going, "What's he up to?" Because Pat's really bright, so it makes you think he's got a plan,
Yeah.
I don't think he has. I think he was being lazy. And I actually did a pat on Saturday and just did 2-1 for everything. I actually ended up doing quite well as a consequence. Pop from Newcastle let me down badly. Yeah. But it's really hard to call. I think that's the point. It's really, really hard to call. I mean, I think, again, like yesterday, oddly, the result was, in a sense, less important than the performance. And I think everybody who went yesterday walked out feeling really, really good, even though, 1-1 draw at home against a Liverpool team who were in similar kind of problems as us. But it didn't matter. What was really important yesterday was the performance, and we were definitely the better side for the second half. If we'd have won that game, it wouldn't have been a travesty. So I think, again, it's a tough away fixture for us. I would be okay with a draw again, if we put in a really, really good performance.
Yeah, I to be honest, I just feel it's going to be one of those seasons for us where I think the gloss is going to come off a bit, and I think the David Moyes era will just come to it will sort of grind to an end, which I think is a shame. I don't necessarily think that he's got one more year left on his contract. I don't think he'll make it that far, and I just think the weekend's game was pretty much sums up what most West Ham fans are thinking at the moment. It's just, we've lost Rice. It seems like a cycle's coming to an end, and rather than show some real determination to ride that wave of momentum from the Conference League and get rid of Declan Rice and give the whole club a bit of that rejuvenation they needed, and then perhaps that would encourage fans to get behind David Moyes. It just feels like, I think there's probably some thoughts in Sullivan's head about the Daniel Kretinsky launching a full takeover, which is sort of expected any minute now, in grander terms, i.e. any month now, or whether that be the end of next season or not. So you sort of think he's not really interested in taking any risks and firing loads of money at the club. I personally think, I was very much David Moyes in. I think you win a European trophy, and I think with a bit of investment that there generally could have got us back to the form he has shown for the majority of his West Ham tenure. That's what fans easily forget. We had one dodgy Premier League season last year, and it's like everything that came before didn't matter. He's still our best manager of the modern era, basically, certainly as far as prolonged periods of looking like a semi-normal football club go. And yeah, I just think that's the thing, right? We smashed Bournemouth 4-0 away at the end of last season, and I just think 1-1 away to Bournemouth is basically going to sum up the season, I think. And we've got some hard games next against some proper clubs who look decent. And there's every chance that we get to the end of October without a win. That was your chance to sort of get the season off to a good start. Bournemouth will be no higher than 15th at the end of the season. And I just think if you're gonna, you'll finish top half, you need to probably win 5 away games in a season if you want to finish top half. Bournemouth away is one of them that you should be winning. You take the lead and then it's just meh. And I just think that's what the season is probably going to be like. I don't think the Europa League run is going to be anywhere near as iconic as our last one. And I just sort of think it's all going to get a little bit aggy with the fans again. And Moyes is going to sort of go out under a cloud of negativity when really he should be applauded out and lauded and thanked for everything he's done and the memories he's given us. No investment back in the squad. Yeah, we've just given Thomas Souček a new deal when last season most people were screaming for him to be nowhere near the team. James Ward-Prowse have got the same concerns as you. I don't know. I just don't.
I think look, James Ward-Prowse.
It's going to be a mere season.
I think James Ward-Prowse is a really good buy for you, actually. Proven Premier League player, scores goals, brilliant set pieces. Good tackler. He
needs quick, athletic players around him, though.
He does. I agree.
We've got Souček next to him.
Well, I agree with that. He's not the same kind of player as Declan Rice. So I don't see that he's necessarily a replacement for Rice. But I think he's a good player. I mean, I think he's been very unlucky not to play for England more than he has as well.
Yeah.
He's a decent. That's a good buy for you. But
I understand. I think my point was, I don't think it's going to be a season, as we've seen before under Moisey, of like pulling results out of the bag and last minute equalisers or winners. We scored one against you, didn't we? It was last season or the season before. And I think you need that extra bit of like fight, heart, and desire. And I just think that has slowly drained out of West Ham, and especially not capitalised on the Europa League run.
Who's the
and
captain
therefore, sorry?
Who's the captain this year?
Zuma, I think, led the team out at the weekend.
Really?
Whether it's going to stay with him or not, I don't know. Talk about Maguire will get it if he comes in. Not sure about new signing. It would have been Fabianski, but he's not playing anymore.
Prowse was the captain at Southampton.
Don't give it to a new player, though, I don't think, dear. But I'm not sure what will happen with that, mate. But, so basically when we go into games like Chelsea at home, I think we're going to lose the games that people expect us to on paper, which we haven't done for the last couple of seasons. We did last season in the league, to be fair. But I just can't see any amazing results coming. And I think the same will apply this weekend. And I think you will win 2-1 to do a Pat Nevin. But look, Chidge, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on the show. We're going to have to cut it short, unfortunately, or cut it long, in fact. Nearly 40 minutes of an opposition view. You know you're one of my favourites every season, Chidge. So happy to chew the fat with you about all things football. Give us a quick score prediction before we let you go. Sunday afternoon, London Stadium, West Ham v Chelsea, East v West, London derby, all that sort of thing.
Well, I think probably I wouldn't be surprised if it's 1-1 again. Equally, I wouldn't be surprised if we turned up and put in a good performance and won. But we shall. I'm going to go. I think we're going to go for quite a slow and steady start, and then we've got teams like Luton and Forest after that, and then Bournemouth. So then we could probably go on a big run. But I'm going to go 1-1. I'm going to err on the side of caution, Will.
1-1. Yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 to Chelsea. And I don't like going against West Ham. I try not to, but yeah, I think pragmatism is the order of the day this season. And then you set your expectations low. If I manage to get a draw, I'll be absolutely buzzing. So
exactly, that's what I'm going to do that this season. I'm not going to get carried away with it. I shall be there on Sunday, so I might bump into.
Yes.
You.
So here, yeah, happy days. Well, look, Dave Chidge there from the
taking my nephew for his first away game ever.
Are you? You in the away end, I assume?
Oh yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Good.
Gonna love it. I love it.
Well, look, I hope you enjoyed the game, mate. Not too much, of course, but it's Dave Chidge from the Chelsea FanCast.